This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. Falling prices are fueling growth in high-speed internet services, especially in developing countries. Recently, the International Telecommunication Union released its Measuring the Information Society 2011 report. The ITU, part of the United Nations, compared access, use, and skills in 152 countries. The report says South Korea has the world's most developed economy in information and communication technology, or ICT. Sweden, Iceland, Denmark, and Finland were also among the top 5 in the ICT Development Index. The index compares 2008 and 2010 scores. Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Vietnam, and Russia had some of the biggest improvements between those years. Susan Teltscher is head of the ICT Data and Statistics Division at the International Telecommunication Union in Switzerland. She says most of the growth has come from one source. Mobile broadband is now leading the growth race among the different ICT indicators, much higher than the other key indicators that we look at, like regular mobile phone subscriptions, fixed telephone, or fixed broadband. And the good news is that it's also starting to grow in developing countries. Mobile broadband subscriptions reached 872 million by the end of last year. 300 million of those are in developing countries. Ms. Teltscher says, if we can bring internet over the mobile phones, then we can really make a difference in terms of improving internet access also in developing countries. Falling prices are adding to the growth, she says, especially in the broadband area. The prices dropped by over 50% between 2008 and 2010, which is a very encouraging finding because this was primarily drops in the developing countries. Even so, the report says people in many low-income countries are still paying too much for high-speed internet connections. In Africa, broadband service for a home or office cost almost 3 times an average monthly income last year. That was down from 6.5 times as much in 2008. Also, there are big differences in broadband speed and quality from country to country. South Korea has Asia's 4th largest economy. Susan Teltscher says, if you look at what they have been achieving in terms of ICT development, it's actually higher than what you would expect given their national income. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.
This is the VOA Special English Development Report. A new study in West Africa shows how farm irrigation systems powered by the sun can produce more food and money for villagers. The study in Benin found that solar-powered pumps are effective in supplying water, especially during the long dry season. Sub-Saharan Africa is the part of the world with the least food security. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization estimates that more than 1 billion of the world's people faced hunger last year. Around 265 million of them live south of the Sahara Desert. Lack of rainfall is one of their main causes of food shortages. Jennifer Burney from Stanford University in California led the study. The research team helped build 3 solar-powered drip irrigation systems in northern Benin. Between 30 and 35 women used each system to pump water from the ground or a stream. Each woman was responsible for farming her own 120 square meters of land. They also farmed other land collectively. The solar-powered irrigation systems produced an average of nearly 2 metric tons of vegetables per month. During the first year, the women kept a monthly average of almost 9 kilograms of vegetables for home use. They sold the surplus produce at local markets. The earnings greatly increased their ability to buy food during the dry season, which can last from 6 to 9 months. People in the 2 villages with the systems were able to eat 3 to 5 more servings of vegetables per day. But making the surplus available at markets also had a wider effect. The study compared the villages with 2 others where women farmed with traditional methods, like carrying water in buckets. The amount of vegetables eaten in those villages also increased, though not as much. The researchers note that only 4% of the cropland in sub-Saharan Africa is irrigated. Using solar power to pump water has higher costs at first. But the study says it can be more economical in the long term than using fuels like gasoline, diesel, or kerosene. And solar power is environmentally friendly. The study was published in January in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. And that's the VOA Special English Development Report. You can post comments and learn about other issues in the developing world at voaspecialenglish.com.
This is the VOA Special English Development Report. Before refrigerators were invented, the next best thing was an icebox. But another way to keep food fresh is to use an evaporative cooler. A common design is a tall box with several shelves inside to hold the food. The shelves are pieces of metal with many small holes through them. The sides of the box are covered with pieces of thick cloth. Containers of water are placed at the top and bottom of the cooler. The ends of each piece of cloth lie in the water so the cloth stays wet. The cooler is put outdoors, but not in the sun. Air will pass through the wet cloth. The inside of the box will stay several degrees cooler than the outside air temperature. This may be cool enough to keep foods fresh, at least for a short time. Some foods can make you sick if they are stored in conditions that are not cold enough to prevent the growth of harmful organisms. Freezing can keep some foods in good condition for months after the growing season. Yet foods can be damaged if they are kept too cold. The British development group Practical Action says the best way to prepare foods for storage is at harvest time while still in the field. Use a sharp knife and place the harvested items on a clean surface or directly into storage containers. Do not put them on the ground. Use clean water to remove dirt and keep the water clean. Usually, it is better not to remove outer leaves from fruits and vegetables before storage. Without the leaves, food can become dry. Fruits and vegetables must be cool from field heat before they are put into storage. But cooling them in water can spread fungus throughout the food. A better idea is to harvest foods either early or late in the day, then leave them to cool naturally. Some fruits and vegetables must be stored at 0 to 4 degrees Celsius. Any colder and they might be damaged. Some foods need to be stored at 4 to 8 degrees, and some need to be stored above 8 degrees for best results. Wet the fruits and vegetables so they do not become too dry. The best time to do this is before storage. Cover the items in plastic once they reach the right critical temperature for storage. Most fruits and vegetables need the relative humidity in storage to be kept between 85 and 95%. Finally, leave space between the food containers and the walls of the cold storage area so air can flow. Keep the space clean and try not to open the doors too often. And that's the VOA Special English Development Report.
This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. Recently, the Wall Street Journal had a report about the online travel company Orbitz. The newspaper said Orbitz shows Mac users higher-priced travel choices at the top of search results than users of Windows. The company began doing this after research suggested that people who use Mac computers spend up to 30% more for hotels than people with PCs. Former Orbitz employee Cameron Ewell is chief executive of a digital media and technology company called Adgent. He says Mac users tend to be more affluent than PC users, so why not target them with the messages that are going to resonate with them? This kind of price discrimination is also known as dynamic pricing. Cameron Ewell says it is a very common marketing tool, especially in the travel industry. He puts it this way: next time you're on a flight, ask the person next to you what they paid for their ticket. For example, if you are a business traveler or you bought your ticket at the last minute, you will always get charged more. Companies have always gathered information about their customers, but now they have a lot more ways to do it. Eric Martin is a partner at Boost Partners, a management consulting company. He says a salesperson in a store can only assume certain things about you based on your appearance. Online sellers, however, have far more information to work with, including information about which website directed you to them. Eric Martin says the people that you deal with online can't see you at all physically, but they know that, for instance, when you came to Orbitz, you may have been directed there by Kayak. Kayak is itself a comparison site, and that may then lead Orbitz to believe that you're searching for deals. Information about the referring site is only one of the things that a site like Orbitz will consider. Is the person a return visitor? Which hotels has this person viewed in the past? Websites collect this kind of information by placing small files known as cookies on a person's computer. In the case of Orbitz, Mac and PC users were actually given the same choices. However, they appeared in different orders. For Mac users, the higher-priced hotels showed up higher in the search results. Orbitz says 90% of its users book a hotel that appears on the first page, and mostly in the top 5 listings. For VOA Special English, I'm Mario Ritter.